Hello, and I know many of you on my channel have said there has to be a sell-off between now and the halving because there's a pre-halving sell-off that always occurs. And may be surprised by how people didn't just sell the news this time because of buy the rumor, sell the news. We're going to talk a little bit about that and why that's most likely not going to happen. There's always a chance that something like that happens, but generally it's not going to happen this time because this is very, very different from all the other times. First of all, let's look at the on-chain statistics right now. And realistically right now, about 70% of Bitcoin holders are long-term holders. That means only 30% is trading back and forth. Second of all, as I've mentioned, the Bitcoin ETF does actually trigger buys, and there's big institutional buyers that are wanting to buy Bitcoin up right now. And that should counteract any kind of selling pressure. But the other thing is, these institutions are pretty much laser focused on actually acquiring more Bitcoin. And there is a lot of interest in the Bitcoin ETF, although it's not straight buys. We've had over $2 billion of trading just within the first day. Now, that's not $2 billion worth of Bitcoin buys. It's just trading volume altogether, buys, sells, all that other stuff, which means there's a large amount of interest. But that large amount of interest means that BlackRock and others are going to have to accumulate significant amounts of Bitcoin now to actually kind of like buoy that interest and support that interest. Yes, there is the fact that Vanguard and Merrill Lynch and maybe a few others won't let their clients buy Bitcoin. I personally think they're going to have to reverse that decision sooner or later because their competitors will allow their clients to buy Bitcoin, and clients want that Bitcoin, as indicated by the over $2 billion worth of volume on day one. I don't really know if these providers are waiting for a better price for Bitcoin. I don't think they're really getting it, and I think they have to buy as they go along. Now, some of their seeding, BlackRock did about $10 million worth of seeding. I think Van Eck did like $72 million worth of seeding, will actually offset that, but it's not going to be enough looking at the volume. And the thing is, they're trying really, really hard to actually attract customers to their ETF with fees that are either free or 0.25%. For instance, the biggest Bitcoin futures ETF, which is ProShares, charges 0.95%. So they're really, really trying to get people to their product, and that's going to get more people to their product. Low fees from a fund attracts more people to the fund, and people are interested in gains. Now, the retirement and pension market is massive. Even if 1 or 2% of that comes into Bitcoin, that would inject tens of billions of dollars. And the disclosures are telling us that the providers are prepared and laser focused on asset acquisition. They want to acquire some assets and they're just looking for a good price. They're probably buying off OTC, and OTC price has to be lower than exchange price. Otherwise, there wouldn't really be a point to the OTC. So the thing is, like, their goals to actually their goals to actually acquire Bitcoin is in the billions of dollars because they're going to need those kind of reserves to kind of like support the Bitcoin trading the Bitcoin ETF trading that's going to go on their platforms. And right now, they don't have billions of dollars. Remember, these are publicly traded companies, and they actually have to disclose whenever they make a big purchase, at least on their quarterly report. And we didn't really see it before on any of their quarterly reports. Now, they've disclosed that they're actually seeding, but once again, that seed money is nowhere enough to support all the Bitcoin trading. And it has been rumored that BlackRock has like $2 billion ready to actually buy Bitcoin. Now, that didn't happen right off the bat because if there was a $2 billion buy, either off of OTC or off exchanges, you would actually see a big pump. Now, that might have actually been used to counteract some of the sell the news people. But, there's going to be continuous pressure to buy more Bitcoin as more and more people get into the market. I don't think the excitement and the interest in Bitcoin ETFs is just going away. Investors see a very volatile market that's prompted for gains. Investors aren't blind. They're looking at the graphs for Bitcoin. They know that, Bitcoin's gone from, 4 years ago during the cycle at this time, it was roughly $6,000 or so. And now it's $40,000. A cycle before that, it was like $1,000, and now it's $40,000. So they're seeing those gains, and they can extrapolate that out in the future, especially since the ETFs have come in. Now, the thing is, like, if you look at the gold ETF, it did pull back a bit after the ETF, but then it grew astronomically in the years afterwards. And, when the gold ETF was actually made many decades ago, there wasn't like this electronic trading stuff up. There weren't 24/7 markets like there are for Bitcoin. So, since people can buy and sell at a whim at this point, and people are more informed on what's going on, and there's a lot of fans for Bitcoin and crypto that have been waiting for this for months and months, I highly doubt there'll be that sell-off. And there's always interest from people that wanted to get into Bitcoin but felt a little too afraid to get into Bitcoin because people were telling them that it's unsafe and all that other stuff, that now have the insurance of an ETF. Yeah, there's a lot of FUD going on Twitter, like a lot of anti-Bitcoin, anti-crypto people, especially in the Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler crowd, are saying that this is a terrible event and this is going to wreck our economy. But they're, I think, in the minority. For every one of those you see, you have a lot of replies saying well, you just don't like Bitcoin because it affects your power or it affects the banking power. And many of these people are from traditional banks and finance managers who see Bitcoin as a threat to the entrenched system. Especially now that certain countries are starting to adopt Bitcoin, they know that it really can't be stopped, but they want to delay it as much as possible to hold on to their power. They are saying things like, oh, it's centralized. 2% of people hold 75% of all Bitcoin, but that's not very different from our wealth distribution either at this point. Yeah, I will admit that Bitcoin, in terms of how many people own X amount of Bitcoin, it is probably more centralized than the USD right now, but the USD has had a lot more time to get around, and the constant inflation and bailouts of big companies have angered a lot of people, and I have a feeling that the government's going to continue to do the inflation and the bailouts because it's kind of necessary to keep the economy going at this point. So people feel like they need a way out, and Bitcoin is that way out. And people are the people that are entrenched are just afraid of an alternative market. So the ease of getting access to this online is going to actually, I think, make this rise even more than gold. The willingness of people to actually speculate on somewhat volatile assets, I think these days, and obviously some desperate people that just want to make some money, I think is going to make the demand go way, way up. And let's not forget retirement and pension funds. I think there is a bill in the making in 2025 that will allow retirement and pensions to have 1 to 3% of their assets in crypto, and that could be very, very huge. A lot of people are expecting an immediate rise, but I've been saying for a while there won't be an immediate rise due to the ETF acceptance because the money's not going to come all at once. I've said it's going to be daily. It's going to be tens or hundreds of millions of dollars of buying pressure per day or per week that's slowly going to edge it up. And there are going to be people that are going to try to sell it down, but there's big enough institutions that want to lap it up for their clients. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem to absorb it. Now, the thing about the sell-off right before the halving is it's really happened pretty much all of once. And that was last cycle. And that was very clear. And that was because COVID shut the entire economic system down. At least people thought for the day until the stimulus and everything else came in. That's not really in play this time because even though there is rumors of a new virus in China, I doubt it's going to shut everything down at this point. Without everything shutting down, I highly doubt you're really going to get that big sell-off that you are waiting for. Remember, the cycles don't operate exactly in the same way. You can't just overlap one cycle over the other one and say it's going to happen again. Even though, I know a lot of people that are saying this are the ones that missed out on 15K and want another buy-in. Even if they get the 30K, it's going to be still twice as much as they could have bought in for 15K. So you kind of missed out on the opportunity waiting for ever lower prices. And I doubt you're going to get that 30K. In fact, you're probably going to be buying in at 60K because you missed it at 30K because you're waiting for lower prices right now. I highly doubt this is actually going to happen because there's not COVID this time and there's constant buying pressure from these ETFs. And the thing is, people that are waiting for a Bitcoin drop because, when the Fed cuts rates, historically markets go back. There's also a macro reason for that. Historically, when the market cuts rates, it's because we're already in a recession. And they're trying to bail the economy out of a recession. We don't have that right now. They're going to cut rates this time because the rates are just like too high because of a recession we just got out of back in, like 2022 and 2023, and also because they've had to control inflation. So I don't know, like, people are talking about a soft landing. I'm not really sure if we really need a landing at all right now. The economy actually is not doing bad. People still have money, and even though you hear people complaining about like inflation and lack of money, it doesn't really seem it's really affecting their spending habits because consumer spending is still higher than ever right now. So if people are complaining they don't have money, they're definitely not acting like they don't have money at this point. And the thing is, as much as inflation has gone up, salaries and a lot of at least like white collar jobs or university educated jobs have gone up. If you looked at the salaries increase in like technology, healthcare, and a couple of other human services, they've gone through the roof the last couple of years. They've actually outpaced inflation easily for the last 5, 10 years. So even with inflation, a lot of people do actually have money. There's a lot of people that don't, and I think the separation between the like the college educated and the non-college educated is actually great, getting bigger and bigger. But overall, like, I think there's still enough money out there to prevent a big prevent a big recession. And gas prices are coming down, and they're not really going to go back up despite all the wars that are going on, because the Chinese economy is bad. Unlike the American economy, it's really, really bad right now. So the demand from China is actually very poor. Europe is basically going for more like alternative sources, and they have some more production from the North Sea. So like there's like less demand and more supply there. And also the US gas production is basically at an all-time high. So there's actually kind of a glut of gas. So I don't think gas prices are going to go up. I think they're actually going to go down over time. You have all these factors lining up, plus the big 900-pound gorilla in the room, which is, BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK. All these guys are actually investing in Bitcoin itself, and they're buying billions over the next few years. And especially in this period when they're starting to buy, they're really going to like spruce up the market a little bit. It might not go for like a giant mega pump, but it's going to prevent any real kind of dump. Even though Bitcoin seems to be overbought right now on the RSI stuff, I don't think that matters at all. I think like when you have all these big companies buying, I think you can just throw all that stuff out the window. So right now you should definitely start to DCA in. And if you don't, you might be buying at a much higher price. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.